Hey guys, DMS3TV here. Today I have with me the LCD-2.2 from Odyssey. This is one of the last revisions they made before they started implementing the phasor design. And that was controversial. Many people like the phasor, many people dislike it and think that the previous models sounded more organic. So we're going to talk about that. But first, let's get into the build. While a majority of this headphone is either wood or metal, there are some plastic features such as the area around these connectors here, and the binding for the left and right posts to slide through. Now, I'm probably under the impression that the inner workings of this are likely metal and the plastic is just a protective cover, but I can't say for sure. Speaking of these, they're actually very stiff and hold their adjustment quite well, but if you need them to move easier, you can adjust them through this little screw right here. And, adjustable as they may be, the LCD 2.2 through the current LCDs, I might say, is not particularly comfortable due to its weight. This is an extraordinarily heavy headphone, and that is honestly throughout this entire thing going to be my primary complaint. Now, there is a bar you can get that attaches to the top that does improve comfort to a certain extent, however, it cannot solve the weight issue. Now, these are heavy for a reason. It's because of the materials they're made out of and because of the driver structure itself, which is a trade-off because you do get something quite incredible out of these, but I can't find myself wearing them for a long period of time. Now, this particular pair has the micro suede vegan pads on it, which I know are more difficult to get now unless you actually do have a pair of LCDs. I did not get a chance to try this specific revision with the normal leather pads, so bear that in mind during this review. This has all been with the micro suede vegan pads. Overall in build, no expense is really spared towards a very, very, very premium feeling product, and a very good looking one at that. Now, this also comes with a carrying case. Now, while the newer ones have a Pelican-style carrying case, the older ones are a wooden box lined with foam and a silk-like material. Do I think this is quite as protective as the new ones? No, but it is very elegant and is very appealing. There's not much quite like opening up a case like this to see your headphones waiting for you inside of it. Now, with those things said, I want to talk about sound for the LCD 2.2. Before anything with that, I want to start with the frequency response. Now, these are relatively flat throughout the low end, though they do actually start to curve upwards in the 20 Hz and below range, which is pretty interesting. But they stay relatively flat throughout the lows and low mids. They then start on a slope downwards around 1K and reach their lowest point at about 5.5K, right under 6. This would make them sound exceptionally dark if they didn't peak back up again at 8K and then drop again at 10. The highs are a little bit of a roller coaster in these, but for some reason it's not quite as bothersome as I would have imagined. Likely because many headphones struggle with peaks around 10K, and these don't have that. These actually dip back down to the same level as the upper mid-range around 10K. So some parts of your treble are prominent over others, but it makes the highs sound relatively sweet, somewhat like the Sennheiser HD650. Vocal presence is slightly distant, depending on the vocals you're listening to. Anything in your high vocal range, however, is going to be extremely present. And with that said, soundstage is not what I would particularly call massive, but it is very room-like. The best comparison I can make for the soundstage of the LCD 2.2 is that they are very reminiscent of actually having speakers in the room around you. It's an extraordinarily big sound. Not necessarily an extraordinarily wide sound, but a very big sound. It sounds like it's coming from something much larger than these headphones. But I mean, these are still very large headphones, it sounds like something more. Now, there is a slight amount of grain in the highs, though it's not overwhelming and not nearly on the level of many other headphones that I've heard. The highs are still extraordinarily sweet, and I can't really complain because of how far from fatiguing they are, which I wish I could say the same about the headphones' comfort and weight. Now, imaging is a little bit less clear on these than on some Sennheisers I've heard. However, it is certainly within acceptable bounds and performs above average compared to most things that I have heard. Though I'm not sure if gaming on these is going to be a good experience or not, especially considering, like I said, their comfort. But all in all, I would have loved to have heard these with something like Dynalo, especially with what it does to the highs being such a fast amp. But I did test it quite a bit with the NFB11, and now with the R2R version of the NFB11, which does have a video coming out relatively soon. I can see this pairing relatively well with some tube amps, though I personally would probably prefer it with a fast solid-state amp, and not a particularly warm one, considering these headphones already have a slightly warm sound signature. So the LCD-2.2 pre-phasor, what do I think about that? I love them. I think that this is the next step up from the HD650 that is lacking in comfort. I think that with a solid-state amplifier that is relatively neutral, these would pair extraordinarily well if they're receiving the power they need, and could easily be endgame for a lot of people. Now, as much as I'd love to own a pair of these, and I may get some someday, I'm not entirely sure that myself being a reviewer, I could daily drive them, as they are not neutral, and it would not be a fair reference standard for me to use to compare other headphones to. Hence why the HD600 and 650 are perfect for that, because they are a middle to high ground headphone that is extraordinarily well rounded. And building on that, I wouldn't say that you would want these if you were interested in mixing either. This is a headphone that is strictly for personal pleasure, and it excels at that quite well. So guys, I hope you really liked this video. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you want to see in the future, or if you have something you want to send in for me to review. I also have a video coming out very soon on my update with the M1060s. Now, some things didn't go quite as planned, but I will keep you guys posted. That should be my very next video. But until then, stick around, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys then. Peace.
Just go around leaving people for no reason?
I wouldn't.
Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I sit and wish I was.